All right. Thank you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and chess fans around the world for joining us today for our lesson titled Planning When Ahead, How to Trade. I am Coach Williams, and I will be your presenter today. And this is a really interesting topic in chess because it's a little different than some of the other stuff that we've talked about because it's about planning. And oftentimes in chess, if you look at the beginning of the game where we have all of our pieces, the game is very balanced. Both sides have the same number of pieces, right? They're kind of in the same place on each side of the board. And it's hard for one side to claim an advantage over the other. But as the game progresses, things become imbalanced. And we have specific things that we refer to as imbalances in a chess game. So in this position, everybody can see that white has a queen and black doesn't. And that means that white is winning because we know that white can checkmate with just a queen and a king, really, not just the queen. So the question is, what does white have to do to win the game? And I know we talked last week, or maybe it was on Tuesday, about how to checkmate with a queen and a king against a bishop and a king. But here we have an extra bishop, and we can use that to our advantage. And so this material imbalance, that we have more points than our opponent, tells us what we need to do. And that's that we need to trade the bishops so we can get to an easy position where we know how to checkmate. And here, if white makes the move bishop to b3, the bishop attacks black's bishop, and it also pins the black bishop to the king. You can see it's black's turn, and if I try and move this bishop, it won't let me because the black king would be in check. And so black doesn't really have a choice about what they can do. If they move their king, white would take the bishop, black's king would take white's bishop, and then white can use the shadowing technique, staying a knight's move away from the king, to checkmate the king. So our plan here is to trade the pieces off. When you're ahead material, you trade the pieces off. But what we're really going to talk about today is how to trade the pieces, how to come up with a plan about trading the pieces. And there are a lot of ways we can do that. First is a simple example. Go back a move real quick. If it's black's turn here, but we can see that both sides have a minor piece, the knight and the bishop. The knight and the bishop are both worth 3 points. But you can see that white has 3 pawns where black only has 1. And this means that white is going to win. White's plan here is to exchange the bishop for the knight when they can and try to promote a pawn to get a queen and win the game. Black doesn't want to trade. If they trade, they lose. And so the first way to trade your pieces is if your opponent makes a bad move and gives you the opportunity to trade, you should simply capture that piece and go to the winning ending. And you can see that this pawn on h3 doesn't have a pawn in front of it or in the row beside it, and it is a passed pawn, and it will be very difficult for black to fight that pawn. We can also use several different types of tactics to our advantage. This is a very similar position to the last one. Again, white has a bishop, black has a knight, 3 points, 3 points, but white has 3 pawns, black only has 1. If black retreats the knight to f7, white has a lot of options about what they can do, but since the plan is to trade the pieces, white has a really good move here. Bishop b3, pinning the knight to the king. Okay, and again, it's black's turn here, and if I try and move this knight, it can't move because we have that absolute pin. Black might move their king, at which point white can trade off the bishop for the knight, and now white has a winning endgame with 2 extra pawns. This is a bit of a different example where white again has 3 pawns against 1. but black has the bishop this time instead of the knight. And if black makes a move like retreating the bishop, okay, we can do what knights are probably best at in the tactical sense, right? With tactics, you probably screaming at me right now that the knight can jump into f6 and attacking both the bishop and the king, okay? And even though, of course, we call this a fork, and even though the king can come to f8 guarding the bishop, this still lets us trade off our knight for the bishop, and we have a passed pawn in the ending, okay? Not to mention 2 extra pawns. And white should be able to win this game pretty easily. Our last example is another tactic that we can use. If black tries to move their king here, we can't really pin the knight, okay? We could go grab this pawn, that's true. Black can't really pin the knight, but they can do something else, and this isn't one that I believe we've talked about in detail yet. But this is like a reverse pin. We're attacking the king with the idea to make it move and hitting the knight behind it when the king moves away. So by moving bishop c4 check, we can make the king move, and then the bishop captures the knight, the king captures the bishop, and again, we have the winning ending where white has 2 extra pawns as well as the passed f pawn. And you can see that no matter what black does here, they're going to have a hard time. This pawn, it can't be stopped, okay? So when you're ahead, we want to trade the pieces. And we need to find ways to force our pieces to trade. I have 2 examples of very straightforward plans that we can use to force trades. I'll probably do one of them and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll do the second one after the break. So this is an example of an end game where white has an extra rook. White has an extra rook, meaning that white has a material advantage. They have more points than our opponent. And that tells us that white wants to trade pieces if they can. Right now, there's not anything that we can just go take with either of our knights. Whoops. Just draw a bunch of arrows here. There's not really anything we can take with our knights. And our rook could come into the game, could be developed, but there's a very... Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of the arrows. There we go. There's a very straightforward way we could trade the knight for the bishop. If white plays h3 here, white attacks the bishop. And since white wants to trade and black doesn't want to trade, they'll simply retreat the bishop to not be attacked. White attacks the bishop again with the pawn, and you can see that this bishop only has 1 retreat diagonal, but if they don't want to trade, they can't use the f7 or e8 squares, meaning they have to go to g6. And in this position, you can see that this bishop doesn't have a lot of squares to go to. So if white attacks the bishop again with the knight moving to h4, black is forced to trade the bishop in some fashion. The knight on d6 covers the e8 and f7 squares, as well as guarding the pawn on e4, where the pawn on g4 guards f5 and h5, and the knight on h4 attacks the bishop on g6. If black makes any move, white will be capturing this bishop because there's nowhere for it to go. All right, and at this time, I will invite any questions you might have about how to trade the pieces.
Okay, everybody, click the raise hand button and let's see if you have any questions. Currently, I've answered all the questions that were in chat. And I don't have any hands raised yet. Does everybody understand perfectly what's going on? We have little chess geniuses here today, I think.
Indeed.
Okay, we have one hand raised by Harshit. Let's see. I'm going to unmute him. All right, you are unmuted.
So, are we gonna see some games like from the beginning for trading pieces, like openings for trading pieces?
That's a good question. No. And here's why. In the opening, oftentimes we don't want to oftentimes we don't want to trade the pieces because the position isn't yet imbalanced. When we're saying our plan is to trade the pieces, we're only talking about games when we have more pieces than our opponent. If our opponent has the same amount of pieces on us, we're going to apply different principles on when to trade. And maybe we don't want to trade. Okay? But this is specifically about when we have more pieces than our opponent, we want to trade. And this is how to trade in the ending. Good question.
Good question. I think we don't have any questions right now. If we do, just type them in the chat and hold them for later.
All right, excellent. So continuing onward, we have another position where we need to come up with a trading plan. If we count the pieces, we see that white has an extra knight, right? White has 2 knights, black only has 1. Both sides have 6 pawns. Both sides have 2 rooks. So if white wants to have a more comfortable, easier to play ending, it's a good idea to try to trade the pieces. But it's not so easy to do that here. We have to be a little creative because knights aren't very good at getting at each other across the board, are they? No. So maybe it's not our knights that we want to trade off here, and instead it's trying to trade the rooks. And one of the best ways you can try to trade rooks is by moving to the open files. We know from our prior lessons that rooks want to go to open files, and if white moves the F rook to E1, he's standing directly opposite of black's rook. And you can see that rooks are very good at attacking each other across the board, right? The knights don't do it very well, but the rooks do. So the rook might try to move to D8. And again, white's other rook can come across the board to the D1 square to oppose the rook on the D file. And you can see we use the F rook on the first move and the A rook on the second move to occupy both of the open files. And if black doesn't want to trade any rooks here, the only move they have is knight D5. But even though we can't trade a rook, we can trade something else now. We could trade the knights on D5, and black can either accept an isolated pawn or let us trade anyway. Okay, and you can see that the fewer pieces we have on the board, the more powerful our extra piece becomes. The fewer pieces we have on the board, the more powerful our extra piece becomes. All right, I have 2 examples here from games that were actually played, and they were both played by, in my opinion, the greatest chess player of all time. His name was Paul Morphy. He was an American chess player, and he played a long time ago. In this first game, he has the white pieces, and it's his move. I believe black's most recent move was they moved their queen to C8 to offer a queen trade. And we need to know, do we have a material advantage so that we can trade the pieces? We have this opportunity to trade, but we need to count the pieces to know if we want to do that. And by counting, both sides have a queen, both sides have a knight, both sides have a bishop, Both sides have 2 rooks, but black has 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns. White has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns. The 2-pawn advantage is a material imbalance that gives white a better game if the pieces trade off. So Morphy decided to trade on c8. The H rook captures c8. And white wants to continue either trading the pieces or winning more material. First, he goes rook a h1, so that both of his rooks are attacking the h7 knight, while only black's king defends it. So he retreats the knight. Now Morphy finds a really clever move to help trade. He tries knight b5, making a fork on the c7 rook and the d6 bishop. And this fork doesn't win material in itself, right? Black can defend the bishop, or they can move the rook. In fact, they can do both. But because of this fork, black cannot avoid some kind of trade. Black tries rook d7. And since Morphy wanted to trade the pieces, he plays knight takes d6, knight takes d6, and then there's one more trade on the board that we can get using one of our handy tactics. Morphy finds the very clever move bishop b4, attacking the rook in front and x-raying through to the knight behind. And even though this rook can move to guard the knight, it lets white get another trade. Okay, that didn't happen in the game. After bishop b4, the black player resigned because he knew that in this ending, white just has too many pawns. There's nothing black can do to keep fighting. Now, I believe the second example I do remember. I believe this one he played against a player named Golmayo. I don't know where he was from. Morphy was a much better player than him. But if we count the material here, white has 4 pawns, black has 6 pawns, but white has a bishop, and black has no bishop. Both sides have a knight, both sides have 2 rooks, and obviously both sides have a queen, or king. In this position, right, we know that white has a 1-pawn material advantage, and that's enough to start trading on. But first, white has to address the attack on his knight on c3. If he doesn't do something, black will just capture that knight. So Morphy uses his handy-dandy pin tactic to keep that pawn in place. It's very difficult for black to defend the d-pawn, so black tries b6, and after rook takes d4 check, you can see that this king doesn't have a lot of squares to go to. The bishop guards the rook takes away all of the d file, and white's other rook takes away the e file. He must go to c8. And now white's pieces come in, trying to make trades happen. He's targeting this pawn here, and there's really not much black can do about that. At this point, he tries king b8. White takes the free pawn. So now black's up just a rook. And now black tries to be a little sneaky here. He's got to be careful, because if Morphy doesn't pay attention, rook e1 is checkmate. And that would be a really sad way to lose a game. If Morphy played something like rook g7, oh no, even with your extra piece and extra pawn, you got checkmated anyway. You got to be careful. So he simply makes a safe space for his king to go. a6 attacks the knight, but Morphy sees a really clever way to get a lot of trades. he plays bishop d6. He's not even worried about his knight because he's setting up to attack the king. And this is a tactic maybe we haven't talked so much about. When our own piece blocks a bishop, a rook, or a queen, we can make what are called discovered attacks, which you will see in just a second. The knight comes to attack the bishop. And here, white has a really clever way to get trades. He plays rook takes e4. He takes a 3-point guarded piece with his 5-point rook, and his opponent takes it, but then he uses his discovered attack, rook e7 check. The bishop attacks the king, while the rook attacks e4. And since the king is in check, the king must move, and black gets another trade. But you might be saying, well, wait, isn't white losing a knight? And I would say, yes, but you see here, white has 2 extra pieces. So after a takes b5, Morphy finds another way to trade. Rook e8 check, forcing the king to move. He has to go here if he wants to guard his rook. Then rook takes a8, king takes a8. And you see that it's 4 pawns versus 4 pawns, but white has the extra bishop, okay? So white is going to have a better game here. The future plan after the trades might be putting a pawn on a3, dropping this bishop back to b4 to hold these pawns in place, blockade, and then using the king and 3 pawns to try and fight against, whoops, I was going to make those red, to try and fight against the pawns on g7 and h7 and make a queen on the king side. All right. I will open it back up for questions. If you have questions about how to trade or planning out trades or the 2 games that we looked at, with the one exception of the name of the first player that Morphy played against, which I will look up in a few minutes, you can use the raise hand button, or you can ask questions in chat. And then after we have questions about how to trade, we'll take a look at this queen versus knight checkmate, because that's interesting too.
Okay. Adam W. had a question. He wrote, what about the knight on d7 in the rook example instead of knight d5? That was in the
trading player.
Yes, it was. I'll also unmute him real quick. Hey, Adam W., I have unmuted you. Did you have anything else to ask about that question?
I just didn't know if d7 was like a worse move or, yeah.
No, it's probably a better move because it delays the trade for a little longer. But white still has lots of ideas.
Like knight e5.
Right. Yeah, knight e5 works.
It does.
Yeah, knight e5 forces forces the trades also. If the knight takes the knight, rook takes check, takes rook, and then the rook takes here. And you can see it's not checkmate because the knight guards the d1 square.
So there you go. Thank you, Adam. Or did you have another? Okay, yeah, he muted himself.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any questions? There are several people asking if we can play a game, but we're going to go over a question that someone asked earlier involving the queen and the knight first, and then I will play some games. I probably have time to play a couple of games, which is just fine. So first we'll do the question, and then we will play games.
Okay.
For anyone who, there is one person who asked if it's the end. Technically, we are now at the end of the main part of what we were wanting to do today. So if you need to head out, that's okay. Otherwise, if you want to stick around and see some fun chess games and one cool example, now just hang out with us. All right.
This is a different kind of ending example because we have a material advantage of the queen, but we only have one piece, which means we can't trade it off for the knight. If we trade the queen off for the knight, it'll be a draw. because we don't have checkmating material. So when you're fighting a king and a knight with a king and a queen, you want to fight against the knight's power. And the knight's power is that if we're not careful and we make a bad move, oh, no, that doesn't work here. What was I? Let's say we make a bad move this way,
There you go.
right? The knight might come and do a fork on our king and our queen. And here, if white gets the trade, we get a draw. And in fact, it doesn't even let me make the move king takes c8 because it's already a draw, because white can't checkmate either with just a knight and a king. So one of the best things you can do when you are fighting a knight with a queen and a king is keep your pieces on different colors. If your king is on a light square and your queen is on a dark square, you are never going to get attacked by a knight fork. He might check your king, okay, but it won't be a knight fork. Another thing to keep in mind is that there is one space for a knight that is very difficult for a knight to get at. And that square is 2 squares diagonal away from the knight, is I believe at least 3 knight moves away
Yes.
from wherever the knight is. So we're going to use a combination of pieces on different color squares and this little knight blind spot to win the game. So we might try knight f7, and the knight goes back. Queen d6, keeping our king and queen on separate colors. Knight e2. And now that the knight is kind of far away, and the knight is jumping into dark squares where he will be attacking light squares, for this move and this move only, it is safe for our king and queen to both be on dark squares. Knight d4, and then you have check. The knight can't move, so we're not going to get attacked by a fork. King d3. And you see our king is in the blind spot of the knight. The king is in the blind spot of the knight. I would do queen d5, pinning the knight, and also going back to our separate colors. King e3, queen c5, pinning the knight again. And there's a couple things we could do. King e5 works here because even though we're on the same color, this knight is only going to attack one of our pieces at a time. Let's say he tries knight f3 check. King d5, back to different colors. Knight d2. Queen a3 check, pushing the king backwards. Queen c3, staying on separate colors. And this can take quite a long time if your opponent plays super accurately. I'm giving white like some of the best moves too. Oh, we got cat cam.
Yep. Cat's walking by. That's what he does.
King e4, staying on separate, on the same color or opposite colors. So being on fork awareness. Oh.
Nope, wrong way.
No,
Yep.
yeah, over here. And there are going to be a couple checks here, but he's pushing our king forward. And another thing is if your king's checked by a knight and you stay on the same color, the next move from the knight can never be check. So if he comes here, we might have queen f6 attacking the knight. And there's nowhere for this knight to go, right? If he goes here.
Knight b7, but then fork, yeah.
Right, we have the fork. Okay.
Yeah.
So eventually, as things get closer, right, we're gonna get too close for the knight to stay safe. But even then, we can kind of ignore the knight once it's far away. Queen f3 check. Let's say king d2, and we can take the knight. We can even just trap the king. And I don't think this is fast enough to get back. Yeah, he is. So we do have to take the knight.
It's simplest.
Yeah, we take the knight, and then we just transition to our shadowing technique where we stay a knight's move away from the king. And when he goes to the edge of the board, we trap him there. And we force him over to our king, not into the corner. And we get our checkmate, okay?
There you go.
All right.
That was Ian's question, by the way. He told me that in chat. I just want to make sure that he gets credit for a good question.
So the two big things with this one, if you're fighting against a knight, pieces on opposite colors, and then using the knight's blind spot, which is 2 squares diagonally away.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we move on to the Blitz game? I don't currently have any, and I think all the ones in chat got answered.
All right, then I'm going to stop my screen share for a minute while Coach Velez takes over.
Okay. I will play a game, and I will explain my trades as I go. All right, I am playing a 2200. Here, I like to let you all see the clock. There you go. Okay. I will try to explain my trades as I go, since that is the theme of today. But right now, let's see. I'll play this way just to keep with principles. Okay, I'm offering a pawn trade in the middle. Oh, he didn't take it, so I'm going to take his pawn, and that opens my file. Because sometimes when you use trades, you try to open stuff. Now my knights are ganging up on his e4 pawn, so he just defended it with his knight or with his pawn. Now he wants to kick my knight out, but I don't want him to kick my knight out, so I'm going to play this a5 move to guard my knight from his pawn, which is kind of a neat move. I think he's just trying to take my knight. That is okay with me. I will put this right here, and now my knight is super defended, and I am okay with all of that. Okay, let's see here. This is going to be a low trades game. I'm going to move my king over, so if he brings this bishop in, I can attack it with my knight. Okay, I'm going to threaten to take his knight, because his knight is really well placed and my bishop's really not doing a whole lot. Sometimes you can trade pieces in chess just to kind of get rid of a lazy piece, we can call it, I guess. So I'm going to move up out of his pin. It's not good to keep your pieces in a pin, because when you do that, your pieces get kind of frozen. And so now I'm going to move this guy back. Let's see, I got a chat question. Oh, no, I don't. That was...
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the chat for you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's see here. See, I got to get this bishop out of here. It's kind of annoying. I also have a cat laying on my hand as I'm trying to play this game. He just flumped over. That's what they do. My opponent's taking his time right now. I think he realizes that this is not a good bishop. It's stuck behind all these pawns. And I think he's thinking about that. I also think he's thinking about this move. But I think if he does that, I can actually take it. So he can't quite do that move, because there's kind of sort of a pin here, but I have 2 knights guarding my queen. Oh, see, I think he missed that idea. So the question is, did I miss something or did he miss something? Let's see, if I take there, he takes the knight. I take his queen, he takes with check. Takes. So I guess do I lose a piece there? I think I do. So no problem. I will just move back. Actually, I'm going to move back to here. I'm going to move back to here. And I'm going to harass this guy in a second. First, I'm going to move this here, attacking the knight. So he has this pawn right here. So a lot of our moves are going to be about this pawn. He's going to start defending it, and I'm going to start attacking it. But I think I can win that pawn from him and get it back. And when I do, my pieces should be well placed. So let's get this bishop to run away, because I want to bring my rook here to help me attack that pawn. So I'm going to make him, he's probably going to go here and try to defend that pawn. At least that's what I would probably play. Okay, so he goes there, actually. All right, I'm going to, let's see, I kind of do not want to give him my knight, but at the same time, I don't know if I have a choice. I may just be in a worse position. That is possible. That's what fast chess does to people. Okay, so I'm going to move this rook over and continue to watch this. This will free up my queen to move. And I think he's going to take my knight because it messes up my pawns a lot, which is a good move for him. But it would mean that he doesn't have the 2 bishops. Sometimes in chess it's good when you have 2 bishops.
You can also fight for the b file.
Yes. Well, that's why I use this rook
Right.
to come over. So I could fight for the b file. Interesting. He did not take my knight and double my pawns. I think that was not good for him. So I'm going to take there. Now I have this pawn that's under attack by his bishop. But I'm going to move here. I think that was a mistake by him. I think he needed to actually take that knight earlier. I think that would have been better. I guess he wanted to keep his bishop pair. A lot of people really like the bishop pair. Now that I have 3 things guarding this h-pawn, I can move one of them away. Oh, he's moving there. I see. Okay, no problem. I'm going to retreat to here, keeping an eye on this pawn and watching this pawn too. I had to move my cat out of the way. My hand was getting very hot. People who own cats know what I mean. The cat will just sit on your hand or it will sit on your lap when you're doing something. I also kind of like the idea of putting my queen here and then going and trying to take this pawn down there because it's backed up by my bishop. So that would be very good. My opponent's also in a situation where he probably wants to make trades because he's got more material, but unfortunately, let's see, actually that's kind of an interesting situation. Okay, I'm going to go here. He's going to move here, I think. He could take, actually he could take this. Oh, that's true. Oh, he didn't see that move, I guess. Interesting. So what will I do? I'm going to move here. This threatens to take that piece, and it's looking at this pawn. So what's going to happen? That's kind of what I was hoping for. I'm going to check him. Actually, I don't have to check him. I could take there. No, I'm going to check him. I think it's safer. Guarding my queen. I'll take there. He'll probably play there. But I have a sneaky trick. I'm pretty good at sneaky tricks. Oh. Wow, that's another mistake. Again, he had an opportunity to come down here and do that, but now I can just
pass pawn.
Well, yeah, I just take it. Now I have a really strong pawn. That was a mistake. I don't think he's going to recover. I think I'm going to win the game now, unless I make a big mistake. That was a bad move. Yeah, see, now he's trying to get my pawn. Aha! I don't want that to happen. Let's see. He's got 6 pawns, and I've got 6 pawns. So I'm going to go after his pawn, actually. I don't know if I can actually hold this pawn. I don't think that I can. Let's go here and see if he moves the bishop away. No, he didn't. No problem. See, if he keeps guarding this pawn, he cannot win this pawn. That's the idea. So I'm going to move here so that his pawn cannot move, because that's important. And then I'm going to move here and trade this pawn. This is a sneaky move. I'm actually going to give him a pawn for free.
Indeed.
So that I can play my king to here, because he wants to put his king in the middle. Although his king move to there is not so bad. So now I move here, keeping his king out. That's a sneaky move. Now my king is also in kind of a sneaky, I got to be careful kind of a place. He's also got 35 seconds. That's not good. Okay, let's see here. I can take this now. Do I want to do that? Yes. Actually, there, takes. I can almost play this move. No, I'm just going to take here. We're going to trade out some stuff. Okay, I'm going to move here. Let's see. I'll take this. See what he does. Okay, I'm coming up here. He could trade. Oh, that was a bad move. Oh, that was a good trade for him. Uh-oh. So I did make a big mistake just now.
He's got 27 seconds.
Well, that's enough for me to win this game. If I had 27 seconds, I would win this
Fair.
game. But yeah, I've lost this game because I made a mistake. Aha, I'm making him think. Which is exactly what you shouldn't do. Aha. Well, I'll let him checkmate me with his queen so you all can see. Oh, he didn't want to checkmate me. I'll get a bishop because it's funny. Okay. He's a good enough player. Well, I mean, he's taking a lot of time here. I keep wanting to resign because I think it's important to let players beat you when they're winning. But my opponent here is taking his sweet time. Here, he should checkmate me here. Okay.
There you go.
Oh, that was a tough game, actually. I was winning, then he was winning, then I was winning, and then he was winning. That was
Very
a good
good.
game. Let's try a new game.
Play one more.
Yeah, I can definitely play one more. Yeah, sometimes in chess you
Harsheet's
lose.
happy. I see
sorry?
him there. I said Harsheet's happy that you're playing another game. He was clapping. He was giving you
Oh,
applause.
okay. Yeah, we're thinking about doing a stream where we just play games and people can watch. We haven't set it up yet. Oh, I won because he quit. The guy just quit.
I don't think that counts.
Well, I counted for internet time. Like I started a game, he accepted it, I made a move, and then he quit. So I won. All right, here's another guy. This guy's got a higher rating than me. Not by a whole lot, but by enough. We'll see what happens. Okay. Oh, he's one of these H5 people. These people make me, they crack me up. I just don't take that pawn. And then they usually move it down here, and I don't know why. Otherwise, this pawn right here, it's going to be something that I go take and try to win later in the game, unless he gives me the pawn, because I don't know why they do that, but they do. But it's really common. Yep, see, every time.
He's just going to give it to you.
Yep, I don't know why they do this. I don't know why. So now I just up a pawn, and he can't castle kingside. And then what I do is I go here to guard all of the pawns. And now my knight can come there.
And now it looks
So-
like he voluntarily played the grob.
Yeah, well, see, he's wanting me to open the position. No problem. See, I want to trade pieces because I'm winning. He gave me a free pawn. So
Yep.
this is actually a pretty good game for us to see how to trade pieces. Right now, I can't trade anything. But watch, I'm going to take like this because I want him to trade queens. That's excellent. Look, I can't castle, but, oh, actually, that's a clever move. If I take that, then he'll take back with a fork on my king and my knight. But you know what? My pawns are pretty good, so I'm just not going to take that. I'm just going to move here. I'm going to guard against his check, which would have been a good one. See what he does. Okay. Interesting.
E5 looks juicy.
No, I don't need help.
Sorry.
Let's see. That's okay. No. I think I want to play. If I play e5, he'll just take it.
No, well, that's not what I meant. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna move. Actually, I'm just gonna move my knight into a better spot. Right here. I'm just gonna move right here. If he wants to trade, that's good. If he does not want to trade. Now I'm having cat problems. This happens in blitz games too. He always likes to be there.
Kind of funny.
Okay. I'm trying to get him to take this.
I think he has to trade now, or else you take his.
He doesn't have to trade. He can retreat. I'm trying to get him to take this, but it would have been a mistake if he took this pawn. That's what I was hoping for.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. I'll move. Man, this guy, he is tough. I also have a cat who's harassing me. I can't do anything with the cat in the way. Let's see. He wants to take my bishop down here. You know what? I think I'm going to let him. I'm going to advance my pawns forward. See, I think he's going to try to check me and get a fork, but that fork isn't a big deal because I go here guarding this pawn so that I can take back with my rook, but he didn't
He
do
didn't take
that. No, that was kind of a suspicious move because now I have this, I think. I'm trying to force him to do that because that makes this guy worse. So we'll see what he does. Because if he moves that knight, I can take here with check. So and he'll see that. That's not like a sneaky move.
Also, the nice trap.
He's playing very, very aggressively. Sometimes it's good to play that way, and other times it's really not. Okay, let's see. No problem. I don't want to open the position up for him. And I'm going to do this too, so he cannot come down there to h4. He's playing very aggressive chess, attacking a whole lot. But that is not a problem. Gotta see what he does. I'm probably going to take his knight if he's not going to do anything with it. Although that makes it awfully tempting. I'm going to move here and try to block it off from his bishop recapturing. We'll see. I still probably have to take first. Okay, I'll take here with check.
Just wants to trade everything.
He does. Well, he wins this pawn over here, so that was good trading. Yeah. He's doing better than me in this game. He also has a better rating than me. So I have to go here. This is a sad move to make. I don't like that move. But if I don't make it, I'm not getting my rooks out. So the one thing that I have in my advantage in this game is his king is not super great. If I can get a rook down here, he might be in trouble. But he should just take this rook right there. Yeah, that's what he should do. All right, so I'm going to go here. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to go here. Guard that square. See what he does. He might play this move here. Yeah, he's a tough player. There he goes. There he goes. I think I'm in trouble. I think I am in trouble. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I've got to go back. This is horrible. Oh no! I think he's going to check me with one of these rooks. Yeah, he played really aggressively, and I never was able to get the upper hand, so he is rewarded for his good play. All right, I'll go here and attack. It's not really that good of a move, though. But I didn't really have a choice. Okay, so he's going to go do that. All right. I'm going to go do this. Aha. See what he does. All right, I'm going to move here. My hope is to get a lame checkmate against him. Sometimes your opponent overlooks something, you can get him. Because like I said, his king is not 100% safe. So he's got to be careful. He was trying to checkmate me, so I had to come over here. I'm not sure what he's trying to do with those checks. They didn't really help him do a whole lot. I think he's just trying to figure out what he wants to do. See, my next move is going to be here, and his king is going to be in big trouble if he's not careful. I'd like to get my rook over here, too.
No, I was following your arrow there, saying that the C file looks important.
The D file.
Or, sorry, D.
Yeah, the D file, I agree, is important. Okay, I'm going to go back. So he wants to do that move. No problem. Oh, I see what he wants to do. He wants to check me, and then when I move over, he checkmates me there. I'm not sure there's a lot I can do about it, honestly. I can go here, but I don't think that that is forced. So he's going there. I'm going to go here. I'm going to do my lame attack. Lame attacks sometimes work. He's thinking a lot, too. It would be funny if he let me check him and take this pawn down here. Yeah, I'll definitely take that. Okay. Now he should play his rook right there. No problem. Uh-oh. The lame attack. Checkmate. Oh, no, not checkmate. Almost checkmate. Let's see. Yeah, I'll definitely take here. And I'll go stop his pawn if I can. Check. Oh, he didn't do it. Uh-oh. I'm going to go get my own queen. See if he'll let me. He shouldn't. He needs to. He really needs to play there. Oh, that's a good move. I have to take there. Oh no. Oh no. He's going to get a queen. He's going to win. He got me. He was running really low on time at the end there, and I thought his king was getting a little shaky. He probably thought so too. I'm certain of it. So anyway, all right, that'll be it for today, everybody. I think that those were 2 fun games. The lesson you should take from them is sometimes you lose in chess, and that's okay. All right, everybody. I think we are finished for today. Yep. All right.
Bye.
See you later.